right, so first of all, je suis désolé, okay, my French is pretty basic, so it doesn't go better than A1.5, so it's not enough for this presentation, but I'll do my best in English. Second, I just wanted to ask you before we start to understand a bit the audience, how many of you work in marketing right now or have worked in marketing? Could you raise your hands? Okay, cool, thank you. So just wanted to know how to adjust based on that. So yeah, welcome to this. I'll present my point of view, let's say, based on my experience. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Hello Operator, so the operator of the operators, so to speak. And then I'm also the President of the Barcelona FinTech Association here in Barcelona. Can we move to the, yes. I want to take a different approach to today's topic because I think we think a lot about SEO, GEO, but I think there's an impact coming from two sides. On one side, AI is impacting search because we will have more supply. You know, it's easier to create a lot of content very cheaply and easily. And on the other side, we will have, you know, less demand because we have different type of search experience. So we'll get into that too. And for now, actually, I want to start. Can we switch to the? Yeah, I want to start on the supply side. Yes. So what I want to point out is, first of all, more content means there's more competition, right? So since everybody can use AI, everybody can produce content very, very easily. So it's very cheap, it's instant. So what happens? There's a phenomenon that's been happening for already more than 10 years ago, which was called the content shock, which basically meant that more content was produced than people can consume in a single day. And with AI, this is only going to get much worse. We're going to get a lot of like low quality content, especially since everybody thinks that you just ask GPT to write an article, that's going to be fine. And what is kind of like the end game of all of this? I always try to think through what does this mean for us as marketers. Basically, if everybody can produce content with something like GPT, it will kind of like sound the same. And then the ones who are actually going to have a benefit from using it, if you don't do anything else with the content, are going to be the companies who have the strongest brands and the domains. So in the end, it's very beneficial for them, but for everybody else, we have to do a bit more work. Can we move to the next one? Yeah. Then I wanted to ask actually, how many of you are using Google to search today? Okay, thank you. Can we get to the next one? So yeah, I wanted to maybe be like a counterpoint to today's topic that SEO has been called that many, many times, anytime there's like a new update or when the voice search came around. But SEO is kind of like a zombie, like it always comes back somehow. And I think the same is true here. Yes, it's going to infect us and it's going to change a lot of things, but people will still be using it to some extent to do the searches, right? So moving on, I want to point out who's actually going to be the most affected by AI searches and the impact of AI. First of all, I mentioned before, low quality content. So especially if you've relied on a lot of traffic from, let's say, the top of the funnel, you're going to be suffering quite a lot because on one side you have a lot of competition is going to come up, and on the other hand, you also have, you know, AI, which is directly stealing clicks from Google search engines because you're going to have like the zero-click answers. You're going to have search engines replying directly to this, and this is also something that's very easily replaced or copied by something like a search engine or by like an AI. I mean, because it doesn't really, it's not really very sophisticated content. Most of the time, it's kind of basic, so it's pretty susceptible to change. And on the other hand, if you're doing, let's say, the bottom of the funnel content, which a lot of times relies a lot on your experience, or if you're doing thought leadership content, then you kind of like you're going to be still fine, you know, that's still valuable. And an analogy I wanted to use for this, to maybe picture or something from a different perspective, I think of it as kind of like baking. You know, everybody can use a Thermomix, right? If you know Thermomix. That's kind of like the AI. Anybody can use that to do like some simple bread recipe and bake bread. But if you really want to have like some sophisticated pastry, you still go to like a specialist who can do much more than that. So I see kind of content a bit in the same perspective. So in terms of the strategy, like, okay, how can we stand out? If we just focus on the traditional search engines for now, I'll get on the GEO afterwards, most of it is still going to be kind of like the same. It's just going to get even more important. So especially like the EAT factors that Google preaches, you know, experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. That's going to get more important. Then also a lot about uniqueness. So again, since AI can kind of create pretty cheap content that kind of copies what's already out there, you can stand out by making something that's unique. So use maybe unique data that you have access to, share your unique perspectives and views, as well as just share personal insights, case studies, things that an AI doesn't have access to right now. And even if somebody then uses that, they will be linking back to you. So it still has a lot of benefits for you. And in the end, what I said before, since the domain authority is going to be very important, it just means we're also going to go back a little bit to the old school SEO days when it's a lot about link building and kind of like PR and strengthening your brand. So that's kind of like from that angle. If we look back now on the other side, there's going to be less demand for searches, right? That's the GEO part of it as well. We can see, if we move on, a quick question first, maybe. How many of you are already using GPT to search? Okay, that's also pretty conclusive. So basically everyone. So what happens? I think in the end of the day, it is true. If we look at it as one cake, the SEO cake, the traditional SEO cake is going to get slightly smaller because one slice is now going to go to the GEO side of things, because people are going to search with AI as well. Like I said before, all of you still use SEO and search via Google, so I think this will coexist. So what I think is, what happens is, I think this point here, most of us will probably interact with an AI to get a better overview initially, but if you then want to really do like a deep level research and you want to maybe read an entire expert article, I think that's when you go back to Google to see the full things and find the entire articles. And from another angle, it's kind of like what we mentioned before, the same applies here. The TOEFL part is going to be less relevant for us as marketers, I think. So this is the part that's going to disappear and go away to the AI side of things, in my opinion. That's kind of like in terms of the cake. And then if we move on to the next slide, how do we optimize for AI search? I think there are different elements to that. There are certain things that are very similar or the same to how they work for SEO right now, just applied to AI. And then there's going to be things that are going to be quite different. The ones that are going to stay the same is, basic things in AI, similar to like a Google search engine. It needs to understand your content very easily. You need to make it in a way that's very accessible to it. So that means you use markdowns, markups, data schema, everything has to be structured. It's also making it very easy for AIs to actually read your content. So again, similar to SEO, you want to make sure the page loading times are easy, that it's very easy for the AI to navigate. I think the difference with AI to search engines right now is that they can also, we're going to have AI agents that will actually interact with the website in a more intelligent way. But they will actually prefer to have things where you can get everything on your side. So you don't want to have read more buttons and this type of stuff. You just need to keep it very simple for the AI to easily find that information on the side. And other things that are still very similar to what we do now for SEO is in SEO, we have to give access to bots to crawl your website. We have to do the same for AI bots. So it's like a specific setup you can do, but it's actually done in the same robots text that we have right now. And the final piece is also similar to importance to now is the freshness. So we want to make sure we can indicate our content. When was it published? When was last updated? Just so the content and the AI agents can also understand that side of things. So in the end, a lot of it is just making things very understandable to the AI, making it very easy to crawl. And then when we move into maybe some newer things that we need to do, again, the navigation, that has to be dumbed down a little bit more. So we mentioned this a little bit before, but above all, there's things like providing programmatic access, kind of like giving a guide to AI how to interact with your content, giving them some rules. That is the same what you can do with this LMS text file here. So those are a bit the more technical things. But again, I think a large chunk of that is not really completely new, because in the end, we're now optimizing for, let's say, AI engines compared to traditional crawling bots. So a lot of the things work in a similar way. And then if we maybe look at it from a different perspective, how to actually rank on GEO, obviously that's still a pretty new topic. There's little data or experiments on it, but I think some things that we see working is you can do kind of like a reverse engineering of the AI results. So for instance, if you're a marketing agency and you want to see who is the best companies in Barcelona, you can ask that to an AI, and a lot of the AIs actually give you the sources. So then if you want to make sure that your company gets there at some point, You want to look at those sources and then make sure you get featured on those sources. That's kind of like how the AI operates. And for now, this is like one of the few ways that allows us to actually understand how to position ourselves in those results. Using that information, it's kind of like what we mentioned before. It's a lot, again, link building is one side of things, but then also PR. You need to strengthen your domain and brand to have other people talk about you. And then, again, we go back to uniqueness, data, opinions, experience, that's important. One other thing that we've seen work in our environment, FAQs. Back in the days, maybe that was not the most interesting thing, let's say, to do as a content marketer. But again, since we talk about AIs, they like to have the data very structured. So if you include more FAQ sections in your content, that allows AI to more easily have this very direct, for this question, what should I give as an output? And that helps the AIs quite significantly. So this can actually help you as well with some more results on the GEO side of things. So that's kind of like a bit like the recap. I'll try to keep it a bit short. So just give you 2 more slides. The first one is to just nail this down again. So it's kind of like a very too long to read summary for you, let's say. So if you're like a high domain authority sites, good for you. You can probably really push on the TOEFL content. You can probably even use AI heavily to produce that and maybe do something like programmatic marketing and this type of stuff. For everybody else, if you're unfortunate to not be like a high domain authority, you have to do much more work. TOEFL is probably not an option for you anymore going forward. So you have to focus, if you want to do content, a lot around like BOFU content, expert-led content, and something that actually is different and unique. And then again, a lot is about the trust signals. So you need to get them from customers. You need to get links, backlinks, mentions, all of this type of stuff. And then just don't forget that you want to optimize for AI, but you still want to optimize for Google. I mean, it's still going to be relevant. Most of us are probably still using it right now. And it's going to change, but it's not going to be overnight. So I think we have to be realistic about that. And then maybe as like one of the outros, we have just one more thing. Okay, that's already the next one. Fantastic. Okay, so I'll just say very quickly, SEO is not dead, it's evolving. We just need to adapt and now optimize for both. And that's basically my main message here.
Thank you very much. Yeah.